want weirdo or do you want itchy?
If you don't really know what's going on, there's a show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
Powered by our patrons. Good evening and welcome to You Call That Radio TV. Tonight we have Darren, Loki, McGarvey in the house. If you're watching us on Facebook, then you're better off going to YouTube because we're playing some music tonight. It's just going to sound a lot better and look a lot better if you go to youtube.com/ You Call That Radio, or even Twitch, which is probably just about the same as well. So go to YouTube or Twitch, or you can just hang around Facebook if you want. We're also got to say a big thank you to the patrons who support these shows. We've done 150 since lockdown began in March, and it wouldn't have been possible without the patrons. We don't have any funding, we don't have any sponsorship. It's all about the patrons, so thank you very much. If you enjoy these shows or you haven't signed up yet and you'd like to support the show, then go to patreon.com/ You Call That Radio. And you could win things like this, a mug, and other stuff like that. Okay, I think we're just going to just go right into it tonight and bring on the legend that is Darren McGarvey. If you've got any questions, I think it's going to be quite a busy one tonight, but just leave your questions in the comments. We'll do our best to ask Darren them. So yeah, leave them in the comments. Can't promise we'll be able to read them all out, but put it in the comments and we'll do our best. Just let us know that we can hear us. You can hear us okay with a wee round of applause or a wee smile, emoticon, emoji in the comments, and let's welcome Darren.
If you wanna keep tabs on the underground scene, then you better tune in to this quarantine stream. Call that video. You call that video. Call that video. You call that video.
Strange mood about
You call that radio.
Here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow.
You call that radio.
however you want to say it.
You call that radio.
You call that radio. However you want to say it, that's kind of part of the fun.
Powered by our patrons.
Brothers and sisters.
Darren McGarvey, can you hear me?
I can indeed. How are you, Mark?
I'm very good, mate. I'm feeling great. What about yourself?
I'm good. Forgive me if this is if it's one of yours that it's just slipped my mind. See the bit of music that's part of your kind of intro montage, where it's quite up tempo. Yes. With the vocal sample at the start. What is that?
That's a Gyro Baby song called Backlash, and it's the version that we play is a Wise Goldfish remix. So it's Backlash, Take the Streets Back, the Wise Goldfish remix. If you're
Right, okay. That's nice, man. That is, every time I hear it, I'm always like, I want that to go on a wee bit longer. I want to rap on that. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's sort of.
You can do it if you want, man. But the plan was, Wise Goldfish was like, he'd like it to be on a vinyl. And we thought, right, how are we going to get a demand for a remix of a song that wasn't very successful? Never mind a remix. So by playing it every day, I hope that maybe one day we'll get the demand for it. And, you know, maybe if you rapped over another remix of the remix, then that might get us some more attention.
I am.
You're a bit of a big deal these days. MC Garvey.
MC Garvey, I was thinking that could be my kind of J.K. Rowling sort of new wanky author name. Do you know what I mean? MC Garvey, because then it sort of stays true to the rapper roots, but then I can truly turn middle class.
Well, that is true, and also to be a writer, you know, if you look at Kevin P. Gaudet, for example, he's an example of a writer who was good as Kevin Gaudet, but when he added the P into his name, all of a sudden a different level. To be considered credible as a writer, as a poet, you're going to need some initials in there. So
I definitely respect
MC Garvey, and also I noticed as well. So the Twitter name changed to MC Garvey, but also noticed that your new tune that came out, which congratulations on, it's doing incredible. It's you've put that under the name Darren McGarvey rather than Loki. Have you killed off Loki, or what was the thinking behind that?
The thinking was that what I have noticed is that that there's a bit of brand confusion with the Loki name sometimes. And so if I'm creating something that's specifically for the hip hop community or the music scene generally, then there's no confusion. But I think when I'm trying to like reach a wee bit beyond that, then the name Darren McGarvey carries a lot more weight. It's there's a lot more sort of familiarity with that beyond Scotland. So I just figured, and also because it was so personal, I just figured, you know, I was a last minute decision, and I okayed it with Brian Gasp, who obviously directed the video, and he thought it was a good idea. So it was just the final ingredient and the piece and a kind of and a mixture of things that have just gone really well in terms of the conception, production, and execution of a thing from start to finish.
I think it's a good shout. It's I suppose obviously because of the subject matter as well, it kind of adds a wee personal touch to it, I suppose, also.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the Loki name, it speaks for itself in the hip hop circles, but I don't know, like you say, it's very personal to me, this music, and also this project that I'll be bringing forward to go out after lockdown ends. Not the immediate tier 4 lockdown, just generally once this phase of organised human life is concluded, then I'll be raring to go with new music, hoping to get out with a live show to support it, and really just, you know, get back into the swing of things as a working artist.
And yeah, man, it's the reaction's incredible. I mean, I was looking at the numbers. It's mad when you think about it. So, for example, Michael Keaton is probably one of your most viewed YouTube videos as Loki. Is for a hip hop thing, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago, which is mental, man. Time flies, but that's got the same. You've actually got more views for the new for I Wish I Was Dead, in a matter of a few days, and it took you 8 years for Michael Keaton, which is obviously that's crazy, and also, and that's not even including, you know, this what's it, 40,000 Facebook views. 10,000.
It's 100,000. It's up to 100. Facebook are a bit coyer about the actual view count, so they don't do a viewer count anymore. So you get the people reached. So that we just breached 100,000 today. Majority of that is organic reach. I only did the paid reach yesterday. So it just seems that it's breaking the shackles of an algorithm which is instinctively trying to constrict it because it's not corporate sponsored. So that's quite satisfying. You know, it tells me that you can still reach a lot of people if you're intelligent about how you're presenting the work. You can't just come at it from an angle of, well, I think this is good, so how's it not getting more views? You have to take into consideration the whole landscape, digitally, culturally, the sort of context in which the thing will be situated. And I think, you know, between Gasp, myself, and then obviously Tommy came on board on the day with the cinematography, then you know, we've kind of knocked out the park in terms of just getting it out there. And then really the public response is the thing. It's generated a lot of interaction, as you pointed out earlier on Twitter. You're talking about potentially tens of thousands of conversations going on about mental health, and have platitude free conversations where people are being very direct and being very honest and forthcoming about their personal struggles, or people that they know and that's ultimately what I was hoping for. But wouldn't have dared to have imagined it would have had this much of an immediate impact. But at the same time, it's definitely very satisfying. I think maybe is the right word.
Yeah. It's the actual name. I wish I was dead. The way that you've done it with the sort of weird punctuation going on. What is that? I mean,
Aye.
it's almost well, the way I was reading it, it's maybe like sending like an SOS Morse code, or is it because it's such a direct thing that you want to sort of what was the thinking behind that?
It's a play on the way that the contemporary rappers brand themselves textually. So, rappers tend to now, you won't just see the text of their name, they'll be using different emojis and they'll be using different symbols and stuff for different letters. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of to deploy that, but with a certain tongue-in-cheek quality, because obviously thematically this thing is dealing with stuff that's, pretty serious. And also, I thought I just liked the way that it looked. That was another kind of last minute decision. I liked the way that it looked. It looked kind of deranged. It looked like someone was trying to text something while under the influence and wasn't quite getting hitting the buttons right or something. So I think it just adds another layer to the general aesthetic of the thing. Makes it quite distinctive because these words, they're quite cliche. The reason I called it that, the album's called that these tracks are lifted from, and I'll be honest, the reason that I called it that was because this was a phrase that kept coming into my head last year when I wasn't well, and it was a phrase that I sometimes even said out loud in moments of anger or moments of stress, and I paid attention to that at the time, but I didn't realise I was myself getting caught up in the kind of suicidal ideation that you think is just, you're just imagining things, and that everybody has these thoughts, and that it's nothing to be worried about, and you don't need to share it with anybody. But then it just takes the right alignment of circumstances, and then that all activates, and before you know it, you're charging towards what could be a final destination for you. So really, with this forthcoming album, I'm kind of trying to just try to throw everything at the wall, in a very measured and deliberate way, to try and place emotion front and center again. A lot of my earlier work, I think I get messages from people a lot, and they'll say, No Way Back, that song changed my life, or Me and My Backpack, that song, this, and I listened to that when I was homeless. And even people saying songs of even Don't Jump, people say the song stopped them from committing suicide. And I often kind of, on one hand, take it as a compliment, and then on the other hand, I'm like, man, I wonder if I've got it in me to create something again with that kind of emotional resonance. I think maybe I've become a bit more guarded in my recent years, especially with kind of being launched into the public domain. And it's took me a while to sort of give myself permission to be a bit more unhinged with the music, and allow myself to indulge the less savoury aspects of my nature, and the less politically correct language and ideas that I might want to explore. And I think I've got a big enough audience that support me that I'm able to withstand now any criticisms or any pushback from that. And that I'm very grateful for that.
Well, what I would say, I thought it was quite interesting what you said on, I think it was Twitter, when you released the video. You mentioned that this isn't rapping about a topic. This isn't just like talking about a subject. This is the reality, and so I think a lot of people that might touch on this subject might not be coming with the same experiences. And I mean, when I watching it back, man, it was quite triggering for me, because it just took me back to last year. And there was just so many suicides. I know that people are speculating that there's going to be lots more this year, but from a purely anecdotal point of view, last year was horrific for me, and I know lots of other people in the scene, with people that we did lose, and people that we nearly lost as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's interesting because I wrote Don't Jump. The story behind that song really is, I was working with Tony Smoke a lot. He was basically helping me to produce my new live show for King Tut's, and then we would go in to do the Fringe, and he had this piece of music that was supposed to be for Callum Barnes, Lumo, shout out to him. It would have been his 25th birthday today. And so I was up in this flat practicing anyway for the show, and he played me this bit of music, and I was like, man, this is ridiculous, you know. And it was two bits of music. There was the first bit that people have heard, and then it sort of breaks down into a more optimistic boom bap hip hop beat. And so anyway, I took this piece of music away, and I sort of agonised over it for ages because I obviously wanted to do it justice, and I didn't want to touch it unless it kind of in some way, I don't know, maybe channeled in some way what maybe Callum would have done with it, or spoke to something around that issue. But obviously, by the time I got around to writing it, the suicide epidemic was then in full swing. And, you know, it was getting so tangible that everybody knew somebody who had recently died or had attended the funeral, or else you've got the accidental drug overdoses and all of that in the mix. So then I really I seen this video by a guy called Kevin Hines, who's an American guy, and he was talking about he survived a jump from the Golden Gate Bridge, right? 2% of jumpers survive it. And it's the world's most popular. And it's the world's most popular suicide destination. And what he said was, and this is the same as every other survivor said the same thing. The minute that their hands leave the railing, it's an instant regret. Right? Now, this is powerful, and it's tragic that most people who die by suicide, once they've struck the death blow, there's a high chance that a survival instinct kicks in, and the last thoughts that they will have. And I'm sorry that this is so descriptive and morbid, but this is the point of the video. It's for people who are weighing it up. It doesn't end the way you think it's going to. It's no peaceful. There's no resolution. There's a high chance that you might consider the horrible, tragic thought that nobody's going to know you didn't really want to die, you know? And I thought that is a powerful message that would speak directly to someone in that moment. And I think a lot of the platitudes around mental health, as well meaning as they are, they're as much about hashtags and social media and us engaging with a difficult issue in a safe way that doesn't really reveal too much about us, but shows that we care. And that's all important. But sometimes in that, the people who get lost are the people who are actually in the crisis, who, one, they don't realise the gravity of the crisis they're in till it's too late, and two, they're not engaging in these discussions on social media. So I wanted to speak to something that really went into their headspace if they were standing on a bridge, or they were tying a knot in a rope, or they had a gun to their head, and hit them with something that's deeply unpleasant, but something that might interrupt their thought process. And so, you know, I agonised over the lyrics, obviously, but I actually had written it before I myself became suicidal, because I know what that thought process is like. But I think it took on even more resonance for me in the last year or so, you know, having ended up in rehab and realising that I myself was succumbing to the things that were killing my friends and killing family members, and seeing other people going through grief, you know. So I just decided as an artist, I'm not going to stand for it. And I've got my own way I want to talk about it, and it's nothing to do with mental health charities, and it's nothing to do with government, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain unpalatable truths that need to be said, and I'm in a good position to do that.
And just what you're talking about, the social media thing, is that I would agree with that to a point as well, where it seems like there's a lot of platitudes is the right word for it, where people are maybe jumping on a hashtag or sharing a thing, but you know that it's just someone's just saying a thing, they're not. And I wonder if there's just so many people doing that, and if someone is in a bad place mentally and they're just seeing a lot of empty platitudes, that it's not really going to help them much, but hopefully trying to reach them in a different way. Like, you know, like I said, that the video is shocking. It's quite a shocking thing to watch, and maybe that is a different way, maybe to shock someone to think about it a different way, which is obviously you've got previous for as well. I know that, especially, you know, you've been no stranger to controversy, but I think maybe the Gaslight video before, that was the first time that you had such a big audience. Obviously a much smaller audience than you do now, but it was the first time that you had a proper audience and you had a massive controversy. You got a massive backlash as well, but was that why you were scared about this song? Because you've been sitting on this song for like way before even the the concept of it, at least an early incarnation of it, like before your own issues.
No, absolutely. And like Gaslight, which was I think part of the reason why I left myself open to the controversy around Gaslight, which for anyone who doesn't know is a video that was around the theme of gender-based violence, but it was written specifically to speak to men who are in that mental trajectory, that sense of victimization, that sense of entitlement, all of the wee building blocks of what can constitute an abusive personality, because anybody can slip into that behaviour. So I did a lot of research around it, and then I created a video that was really from the perspective of the male, which is nothing new. But I think when it got released publicly, a lot of people didn't understand what the true target of the audience was. I wasn't trying to create a sympathetic portrayal of an abuser. I was trying to create a mirror in which abusers could self-identify, because one of the things I learned from my research and what I know from my own experience is that when we men are engaging in that behaviour, whichever gradation of abuse that we're guilty of, whether it's invading partner's privacy, or whether it's psychological manipulation, or whether it's physically abusing someone, that we as men don't identify ourselves as abusers. And so the video was meant to speak to people by depicting all the different scenarios and different triggers, so that somebody could look at it and go, fuck, that's me, But it didn't come with a big PR campaign explaining that. So the minute that somebody else recontextualize it, then I've got a fight on my hands. The problem also was the director of the film was in his own place at the time, and he get quite heavily criticised, and I would say probably, and he would admit, maybe behaved a bit unbecomingly of someone who is ultimately being employed to create a piece of art that's ultimately functioning as a public health broadcast. But I respect Andrew in the sense that he's a hardcore artist and that he dealt with that situation in the way that he thought he should. But at the same time, as that all ticked over, all everything he said at the time got attributed to me, and that's just part of the risk that you take. So I learned a lot of lessons from that, but yeah, I did have a bit of PTSD from that in terms of touching big issues. And it's interesting, a lot of the people that tried to cancel me back then are all being cancelled now. And a lot of the things I said back then about you need to be careful about what's happening in our culture right now. Now they're all saying it, and it's like, part of me's like, I'm glad you get it now, and the other part of me's like, well, fucking suck it up. Do you know what I mean? Suck it up. So we don't jump. It's like using all those lessons, but then approaching it from a place of fearlessness. So I'm ready for whatever happens. If it creates a controversy.
It's going to create a bit of controversy. Well, I don't think controversy is the right word, but it's going to get a reaction. But I think you're in a better place, obviously, because you've been through these personal experiences, and it's quite obvious that you're the character in it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think anyone can really say it. And I think what we'll maybe do is maybe put the video on, if that's all right, man. We've got to play it just in case. I think most people might have seen it, but maybe some people haven't seen it. I know there's some people in the comments asking what the link is. So we'll play the video, and we've just got to give a shout out to Gasp and Tommy Slack. I mean, I think you first mentioned quite a while back that you were going to be working with him, and it was like amazing, because I think there's a couple of people out there. You've got your Martin Windybanks and stuff as well, and Oscar Jam. There's some great video directors out there, but there's only maybe a few who can to make something that looks actually professional and shiny enough that actually looks pro. And Tommy Slack, the stuff he's done over the years, especially with Gasp, it's a dream team getting them both together.
Yeah, and it's good for me as well, because obviously Gasp and I, we go way back. We grew up together. He's like a brother to me. And he's also, I can't think of a rapper that I hold in a high regard or fear more, if I'm being totally honest. It takes me, when I'm sitting listening to a new album by Brian, or a new song or a new thing, I have to prepare myself, because on a number of levels I find it challenging. On the first level, as a friend and somebody who loves him dearly, he's been so emotionally honest and given me an insight into his life that I don't have as a friend anymore, because I don't hang around with him in the way that I used to. So I'm often learning things about what he's going through now that are difficult for me to hear and make me feel kind of helpless as a friend. But then on another level, just as an MC and as a writer and someone who's deeply immersed in the craft, to listen to Gasp or to watch this video is to know that you're about to be educated in some way. And I don't like a learning curve like that. You know, like I like to feel comfortable and competent in what I'm doing. I'm good at what I'm good at. I stick to what I know. I'm a bit too ADHD to jump from one thing to the next unless I'm foreseeing it. So when I'm sitting down and take in his work, then I know I'm going to learn a lot of shit. It's going to mean I have to throw out some old ideas that I thought I had. So I find it inherently challenging, you know, as well. He's a brilliant artist. He's got an art director's eye, and this is something people who know him have always known about him. He has so many interests and so many passions that maybe people don't know about, and that's what I like about him. He's more cultured than the average person running around talking about obscure movies and trying to make sure everybody knows that they've read the latest wanky thing and watched the latest wanky thing. You know, he's deeply into like the visuals and the themes and the way that he constructed the storyboard, the way that he written the shooting script, the way that he pitched the ideas to me. It just made me know what I already did know, which is I can trust him completely. I can trust him completely to realise this vision. So it's as much credit to him as it is to me or any of the other people involved, you know, perhaps more so. But I'll let you stick it on and I'll jump out for a fag break and then we can break it down, all right?
No worries. And just a wee disclaimer, like you've probably already got the gist of it. This is hyper real, so you know, sometimes it's good to talk about these things and sometimes it's maybe not good to watch these things. Or so if you want to maybe avoid this, the trigger warning, I think the word to use is hyper real depictions of alcohol and substance misuse, mental and emotional breakdown and suicidal ideation. So but if do stick around and watch it if you can, because it's I think already everybody's got people in the comments saying video of the year. Check it out and let us know in the comments what you think of it. This is I Wish I Was Dead by Darren, Loki, McGarvey.
Somebody better call an air support. I'm getting wrecked for sport. Half bottle on the steps of court. Drowning out the last shred of remorse. With social workers fill out line for reports. I lost cause, sparking my last smoke. Guess it's non-stop, phones out of charge. Everything that owns lost. Foot and hang my copper top. And I stop, I'm not a lunch, a cocktail. I'm Molotovs at a cop shop.
Hi mate, how you doing? I'm sorry for phoning you like this, but I'm absolutely fucked.
Fucking hell, you after that drink yet?
No, but I feel like it's definitely on the fucking cards, man.
Darren, man, where are you?
Mate, honestly, man, I'm sorry, man, mate. I love you, man.
Darren, wait there, wait there.
Head full of negative thought. I remember it all in my sleeper cell. Eating cereal out of an old box. Cause the bulls never clean themselves. Hoodie up in a pawn shop. Praying these other people aren't seeing me the way I see myself. Full of all sorts and whatnot. Bevy o'clock. Get me at the squat. I'm just heading down for the benefit drop. Staring into the Clyde, looking misty and mucky. Another draw of the fag, another swig of bucky. Off the leash like a stray puppy. Crazed nutty, try to make money. Pray for me. I'm on the ropes, but I'm not trying to pull a punch. Leave your face bloody. Try to take from me. Nip the snout in the bin for a junkie. Threw the bottle in the river in my home country. Became my case study. When the darkness falls, you come through it. When your back's against the wall, come to it and punch through it. And the fog of war, sun to it. Don't blink, just do it. When the darkness falls, you come through it. When your back's against the wall, come to it and punch through it. And the fog of war, sun to it. Don't blink, just do it. Sobriety offers a gift of sanity, something you could never imagine. Put your head in the pillow at night, back on the wagon, no need to compare yourself to your peers, indulging in aggressive repetitive bragging. But skipping meetings cause of all the distractions that happen when the stuff you spent your life working towards actually happens. Bends you out of shape, your ego expands and contracts, and picking the threads of your peace of mind as the fabric unravels. I come from a lineage where you day solvents, buy drugs to make profits and take all them. I'm always torn between giving up cause there's no way back, or cutting through this thick wood to find a way forward. The old days you always craved to top. It used to be in ciphers, I was expecting to see my mates drop. My half-brother and sister, they just became orphans. You're a Jake Ball if you think this is a fake problem. Now there's cash in the bank, 100k at the deal. Scanner to discover it doesn't change the way that I feel. Fame's like ash in your mouth, I'm about to take a funny turn. White knuckle sobriety with money to burn. Bank manager suddenly all touchy-feely, the guy that everybody wants to deal with. Hoodie up in first class, bumping hip-hop like, can I get a witness, yo? I fucking right, fuck your business, run to it. When the darkness falls, come through it. When your back's against the wall, come to it and punch through it. And the fog of war's onto it. Don't blink, just do it. When the darkness falls, you'll come through it. When your back's against the wall, come to it and punch through it. And the fog of war's onto it. Don't blink, run to it. Don't jump. You'll regret that. Don't throw it all away. Take a step back. Staring in that black river as the waves shimmer. Doesn't matter if you're a great swimmer. Don't jump. It's colder than you think. As soon as you let go, you'll be overcome by an instinct to survive. Then it's too late. You'll have sealed your fate. You'll go to your grave knowing stepping off was a mistake. Don't jump. I can see you're hurting, I can see you're suffering. The river's lined with restaurants and casinos you can't afford to eat or play in. You're told to be grateful to work in. You have to act tougher than you are, just to express your masculinity. No industry left to feel a sense of purpose or dignity. Would they tell you that your problem's privilege? But think of your mates, think of your sisters, think of your dad's face. Try and see beyond the mirage insanity paints on the canvas of your brain as it aches with sadness and pain. Don't jump. I know you're sick of your phone, the texts, being one of the best and getting no respect. Losing yourself in a coke sesh, gone from feeling sober and fresh to a total mess, lost and depressed in your own head. Abandoned sleeping bags on shop steps. Women forced to sell torn flesh to more men just for the money to score smack off the same guy that's whoring them. And your bud won't connect, and normal porn's a snorefest compared to faux-cest and forced sex. Or the impulses you develop trying to cope bring you more stress. One more step closer to the edge. Don't jump. Realise your brilliance. The mild stimulants you use to manage hypervigilance. The toxic algorithm that's got you oscillating violently between humility and narcissism. This city isn't pretty. It's brutal in its beauty. But I swear to God, it would be worse without you. I know why they do it. I know why these boys top themselves. As I'm standing on this fucking bridge, talking to myself.
Educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century. How do we do that? Given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week. Every country on earth is trying to figure out how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization? How do you square that circle?
Strange mood of our time.
You call that radio?
Makes coherent sense.
Wow, again, no matter how many times you see it, man. I mean, what's it like watching it back for yourself?
I'll be honest, I've only watched it 3 times. The bit that cuts me up is the obviously the images of my children, because it's very true to life. The sort of, and it was a good idea from Brian from Gasp at the final part of the edit to include that, you know, because obviously you have certain anxieties perhaps about including images of your own kids in something, but I rationalised it in terms of the emotional honesty that it would create, but also my children aren't going to look like that for much longer, and obviously, you know, I don't see much of an issue in terms of their privacy. So I think that it really adds another edge. It shows everything that's at stake in that moment. You know, it might not be kids. For some people, it might be a partner, it might be family, friends, whatever. It's just, you know, nobody is going to judge anyone who decides to make that choice. But a lot of people, they decide to take their own life because they've reached a false belief that it's not going to affect anybody else and that everybody will be better off without them, and that is always wrong. No matter what they've done, no matter what they think they've done, no matter what has happened, it's always fixable. And you know, when you go, then you have to understand that while obviously people will remember you with compassion, and that's important, at the same time there's an immense cross to bear for everybody who has to endure that loss. It's a hard watch for people, but I'm just trying to embrace the fact that I'm always being described as brutal anyway. No matter how much time I take to make a reading or listening experience pleasant. So I'm just leaning into the brutality now, you know, like if people thought I was brutal before, then they're going to get a real kick out of this next album.
And it's the album got I mean, obviously there's the way that you do your albums tends to be a long process. You usually get 2 albums out of it. You get a B-side album that comes out of it, and then there's all these other tracks that they never, you're like, that I look forward to seeing in the release that just seem to disappear and get binned. Maybe one line returns in a future album or something like that. So is that just the perfectionist in you?
It's no, it's what's happened is that having children and therefore having less time and having more responsibility, and then obviously the different strands of my career, it makes returning to the music more difficult. Because you need a certain headspace, and obviously logistically it requires studio time involving other people, producers, this, that, and the next thing. But the benefit, you know, you've got to find the positives in it all, and the benefit for me is that some of my worst musical habits, like releasing music before it's ready, or going on a creative binge and thinking that everything that I have done is really profound, and then it dates really quickly. And so what's happened is that the music has more time to cook, and then I can return to it and go, is this really what I'm looking for? So the Petty Shit album that I released last year, that was all outtakes from this album. But that's a great album in terms of if you look at it in the context of my catalogue. I'm not saying it's great compared to anybody else, but in the context of my catalogue, that's a decent entry in my kind of mainline releases. But it's all outtakes, you know. That we just decided to mix and master.
When you got your Orwell Prize, congratulations, Orwell Prize. So you had the whole of that community that are into books and stuff, to put it that way, watching you. And obviously this is a couple of years after you'd released the incredible GIMP album, which was a very conceptual sort of intelligent piece of work. So, but it's just the way it worked was funny because you've done something really sort of something that maybe the general hip hop crowd that were into your music might not appreciate. And then when you go at the other crowd looking at you, you did the Petty Shit, which was like a kind of album that all your the typical your Loki fans just want to hear you, talking about how you're the best rapper and how you're going to pump the boys and all that. Yeah, and just being the best rapper and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. It's probably the first time that maybe someone who enjoyed your book is actually listening to your music and going, oh wow, right, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, obviously, I've got to enjoy the process of the music. I can't always be thinking, what's the social message here? How does this get received by an audience? Sometimes I just need to get in the booth and just get the catharsis of engaging in the sport of MCing. And that was what the Petty Shit album was. Like, I thought it would be interesting for me to just have my own take on this current sound that's permeating everything, particularly the sort of trap aesthetic, which I quite enjoy. It's not I think there are limitations to what you can do creatively with it, but I also think there are lots of opportunities. So I sort of explored all that, and I thought that was it was also like, that's autopilot for me, so I can write the kind of tunes for days once I get into that pocket, and so it didn't require a tremendous amount of personal sacrifice or effort, and that obviously meant that I could still put something out without all the other sacrifices that come with trying to create something that maybe has a bit more artistic merit, which is what I'm now working on, and definitely in the final stages of it. So I guess
for people that don't understand, just give them what is this album in relation to, the fact that it's a trilogy, the fact that it's, where's it set and all those kind of things, because I think maybe people don't appreciate that what we're talking about here is you're trying to, you could be writing a good line, but it's got to tie in with this universe that you've created.
Yeah,
so the hard work comes in. And
exactly. So it's connected. It's connected, not even in a loose way, in a very specific way, to the kind of the GIMP series, right, which comprises Friendly World, Trigger Warning, Government Issue, Music Protest. Now, these albums are all recorded out of sequence, but if you place them together as pieces in a puzzle, then it tells a full story. And so this is the penultimate. This is the penultimate episode of it, which really kind of it charts the events just before the GIMP album, so it shows the character who's then portrayed in GIMP, which is kind of loosely based on myself, and how they descend into relationship dysfunction, and how they come to a place in their life where the self-esteem goes through the floor. And all of that happening in the context of a society which is kind of breaking down. So it's designed to be listened to track by track. People can just listen to the album itself, but obviously for my hardcore fan base, which is a very slender percentage of the broader people who are aware of me, it's really important to me to serve them something that pays off a lot of the stuff that's been featured in previous records. And so, it's complicated in terms of making sure that you have the necessary callbacks to certain things, that you've got the Easter eggs in there.
Easter eggs, can I ask you about that? Can I ask you about the Easter eggs, right? Because you're the first person that I ever heard using the phrase Easter eggs. And then after I heard you saying it, I see it all the time now. People say, when did this Easter egg pattern begin? Has this always existed and I've just not been paying attention?
It's the first time I heard about it. It was like you used to have Easter eggs on like DVD menus. So sometimes you could get a DVD, right, and it would be like a secret. If you kind of messed around on the menu system, you would find a secret page.
Like a secret track. Used to get special
special features on a DVD. So it's like it's like an Easter egg hunt where like you hide Easter eggs everywhere and then you go and find them. So it's a bit like that. It's stuff that content creators with fan bases over long periods of time can put wee things in for just people who are really paying attention, that doesn't diverge from the overall experience for everybody else. And it's good fun doing that, you know what I mean? Because in a way, it's kind of wanky in the sense that you're operating on the assumption that your work is some sort of mythology in and of itself. You know what I mean? And that there are people out there that are trying to find the secret messages and all that. But I think like there are a lot of people in the community who do pay that close attention to my stuff, and I enjoy serving them that specific wee bonus. So I'm hoping that this record, I mean, I'll be dead satisfied when it's out, because this has been the hardest record of my whole life to make. Just all the different circumstances, including losing one of the executive producers on it last year to suicide. Shout out to David, you know, and then Ash is the other executive producer, and he's shout out to Ash, you know, like he's had his own health problems and all that this year, which I can't go into too much because that's up to him to talk about it. But it's obviously it's been difficult for him to take on the amount of workload that normally he would, and I know that's a source of immense frustration for him, because he says he's got to do something for you, he does it, and he gets very frustrated if he can't fulfill an obligation, despite the fact that there's very good reason for it. So sometimes
Absolute
you just
grafter,
have
man. Absolutely
so
grafter at Astronomic. Just what so much heavy work rate, and of course it's frustrating for him. I totally see what you're saying, man, because this is a guy who wants to do it all, and he just needs to relax sometimes.
Aye, and it's, you know, and I can't even, as much as well as I know him and I know his experience, it's not what he's going through is not something I have much insight into, except for hearing his experience. So just on a logistical level, and then I had my own health problems. You know, last year was just a bit of a blur generally. So it's just been a mammoth task. I've invested more money in this album than any other album. The amount of beats that I purchased that won't get used is ridiculous. But at the same time, I just always write that off as a kind of research and development budget. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm just trying to find the right ingredients, and sometimes that means maybe you know, purchasing things that later they lead you to where you're going, but you don't actually use them.
It's better than looking at a beat, listening to a beat that you like the sound of, and then someone else buys it while you were thinking about it.
Aye, exactly.
And you hear a shite rapper rapping over the beat that you liked.
Aye, exactly. Another thing is I don't like to kind of have a producer make something and then me take ages to decide if I'm going to buy it, because if they're anything like I was when I was coming up, then they're struggling for money. They're struggling to keep ticking over because the creative process in your early days is difficult. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like I have to purchase anything that I'm interested in so that it's there, and make sure that they get squared up for their work, irrespective of whether I use it or not. And you know, I just believe that's a fair way to conduct yourself if you have the financial resources to do that.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's when I was looking for some tunes to play, because I just thought it'd be nice to get you on and talk a bit more about the music, because obviously everyone talks about the book, which is great, but you know, I think that sometimes then obviously you've had the success with the, you know, BAFTA nominated for your show. Congratulations on that as well. But sometimes I think it overshadows the music, and also you're just so busy you don't get enough time to devote to it. But I think it's the right way to put a wee bit of investment in it. Get the videos made, because there's not enough music videos out there. Do you know what I mean? When there's barely anything from GIMP or even Trigger Warning when I was having a wee look.
I think one of the things I was kind of considering was to maybe go back into some of those releases and just create one-off videos for those projects, because it definitely is my intention to re-release the mainline catalogue on Spotify and the streaming sites. It's just trying to kind of think about creating the right level of thoroughfare around it, because it'd be easy just to upload it, but I think, you know, you've got to sort of think, how am I going to actually draw attention to this so that it justifies actually doing it, and then that kind of prepares the ground for these final two releases, because I think I've got this I Wish I Was Dead album, and then I have I think I played some of it to you actually when I was up your house that time. I have the final part of the puzzle, which is will be my final album, and it's just called The End, and it takes place after the events of GIMP and the kind of distant future. So it's very sci-fi sounding. It's very industrial. It's also lyrically more abstract. It's a completely different sound from what anybody has ever heard from me. It's all done by one producer, a Brazilian guy, so it's the sort of thing that it'll be interesting for people, but they might not think it's as good as other things. So I'm just want to make sure that I get it that I pull it out the bag with this album, because I'm not interested if the final one's my best one. It'll just be a conclusion to that phase of my career as an artist, and then I think I'll be looking to move into other things. Do you know what I mean? Like live music, taking it in theatre directions and stuff like that, because I have other creative passions. I'm interested in other things, and I look at the younger artists and what I envy about them more than anything is all the time that they have. You know, all the time that they have to think about music, make music, to push their music and support it in different ways. But then at the same time, you know, I enjoyed that period when I was a youth and I was running about like a blue-arsed fly, and you know, and made as much of an impact as some of them without all the resources that people have got at their fingertips now. So I think like I'm kind of trying to find a way where I can kind of continue to do this, but also broadening the audience and doing it with a certain level of grace. Because sometimes I look in the mirror and I look at my hat and I look at my joggies and I look at my trainers and I just think, do you know what I mean? I just go like that.
Hashtag.
Sometimes I'm just not feeling it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just not feeling it.
But I think it's a good idea about the maybe to pick a couple of the sort of best songs that are in, because I think that the fact that it still does tie in with the, you know, maybe some of the songs that have a certain nod to the new stuff, then get a video done for them, definitely. Because I suppose the difference now you've got is that when GIMP first came out, you would have only had a couple of hundred rather than a few thousand subscribers on your YouTube and wee things like that. So it'd be a lot less effort for you just to release a video and it would sort of go off its own steam. Because I know you're saying that you want it pretty much just you by sharing it on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook's going to get a bit of legs on it, especially if you're picking the strongest tracks.
I think what's important for the GIMP album, I would actually like to go back and remaster that, because we had such a tight deadline for that. It was recorded in two main places, so you have a different sound depending on where it's recorded and how one producer or engineer deals with vocals and stuff like that. So I think there's a bit of kind of audio disparity within the album that I certainly pick up on. Some of the vocals are too low, and then obviously some of the tracks are way overproduced because it was American production. But I think there's a way to kind of even it out a wee bit. But it would mean going back to Gareth, you know what I mean, and maybe sorting him out with some money just to sort of spend, just to kind of refine it a wee bit and go back over it. But definitely, I mean, what's important to me, I think, at this stage is, you know, I've got a lot of work behind me, and I've had a lot of impact on the hip hop community generally. And I think it's just about making sure that for my benefit, this is all accessible in one place, and it's all of the best quality that can be achieved given how old some of the material is, just so that that's there for posterity. Do you know what I mean? For my peace of mind, and also for people in future who might come to my material in different ways, to sort of explore the different phases of my development. Because I think,
and also you're flying the flag for Scotland as well, for people are going to pick up on it from different countries, that it might just open the door to a whole bunch of Scottish hip hop. Because as you know, there's some amazing artists out there that just totally don't get the recognition they deserve.
Absolutely. I mean, that's partly what sort of drives me still, is I recognise that the position that I'm in I can still turn heads in this direction towards the community, you know. And I mean, I just did BBC Scotland today. I did Times Radio yesterday. And I'm not on there talking about books. I'm not on there talking about poverty. I'm on there talking about rap. I'm on there talking about a song I've just put out.
And the History Scottish Hip Hop documentary, which I think's on YouTube, if people want to check that out as well.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the first thing that I did with the BBC in terms of like broadcasting. And it did pretty well, you know. Hopefully that would be something we could return to at some point in future and look at another era or look at another aspect of it, you know. But definitely always flying the flag and keen for people to understand why hip hop in Scotland is so significant and why it needs to be studied and understood more.
We've got some comments coming in. There's loads of comments coming in. I'll try and read a few. Willfire says, the vocab is amazing, man. Genuinely blown away every time I listen. Alan Rorison says, brave video, brilliant track, which could hopefully save lives. Carol Ann says, Dan, how did you prepare yourself making the video mentally and emotionally? Did you just pull from all your experiences you've been through? Video very powerful. I mean, the video is very real, isn't it?
It is. It's, you know, we weren't trying to go. Obviously, people who know Brian's work, they'll know he's got a certain, particularly this kind of phase of his career, this Brian the Vampire concept. This gives him a lot of space to explore aspects that he's always been interested in, you know, horrorcore and just the cinematic quality to what he's putting across. But that's not what my stuff is about, and he understood that. This was about creating something that was extremely realistic and actually contains wee Easter eggs within it for people who have been through this. The Sopadine Max being one that a lot of people have picked up on. The over-involvement in the phone while he's actually walking over the bridge. So just that sense of not really truly understanding the gravity of how the day potentially can play out when you're just totally caught up in self, which is what obsession with social media ultimately is. And then how things can just spiral. You know, a momentary decision to use substances to deal with a difficult emotional experience. If you're of a certain kind of physical, mental makeup, it just spirals out of control very quickly. And so we condensed a kind of a relapse that might occur for an addict over the course of maybe days or weeks into just a 12, few hours. And how quickly it can take you to that place of just absolute insanity. Brian was very good directorially in terms of emphasizing that there had to be a certain level of acting performance involved in this, which I have experience with anyway. But I felt comfortable to make myself vulnerable in that sense, in terms of, showing emotion, crying on camera, and basically just always trying to add in as much emotional truth as possible. And I think that's the stuff that's really grabbing people, because they're seeing themselves and people they know in each of these scenes.
And we've got more comments coming in from, wow, that was brilliant, says Weasley. One, and Billy Boyd says fantastic stuff. Willfire says for sure Scottish song and video of the year. Soapy says not sure what to say. He did also say earlier on that he deserves a thanks and for something.
He said he was happy. He was saying he was happy to be involved in some small way. Well, Soapy, last time I seen Soapy was he came and helped out in February, just before I got married, actually, because my stag do was to get all the boys in the studio for the day, because we were actually about to embark on working on a new project. The Being crew were going to work on a new project, and then lockdown kicked in, so we've been unable to kind of get in. But we had a stack of beats. We were all up for it. We got in the studio together for the first time in years, and it was just all gelled really well. Bose and Defy came in as well. laid some vocals. We had a kind of B and two-tone type track in the mix, which is still obviously waiting to be completed. And he helped out on that day in terms of I was looking for somebody. Basically, I was looking for a runner. You know what it's like when you're trying to get a bunch of people together who all live in different places and have different abilities in terms of how much money they've got for the bus and all that. You know what I mean? Or what they eat or where. And because we were recording in Ash's studio, it's in town, but it's a wee bit remote from shops and stuff like that. So I was just kind of looking for somebody to come along, you know, pay them a wee bit to come along and just be there so they can go and pick people up, drop people off, take people out for lunch or fags or whatever they need, and just make the day as easy as possible. And so he very kindly nominated himself to do that, and then he donated. He donated his fee to an event that was occurring within that week around suicide. So he was involved in that. I don't know specifically what he's referencing in terms of the video, but I'm sure there is something. I just personally, like, I've just been so caught up in the actual process of getting it finished that I couldn't tell you. You know, there's lots of people that have been involved at that. Even some of my BBC colleagues were very helpful on the day because I had the BBC out for the whole day filming because I'm doing another TV series and we're including some of the. He's talking. Soapy was talking about the Gaslight video. That's what he was referencing.
Right, okay.
He was talking about the Gaslight video. Nice one. Cheers.
The video with the you got really lucky with the skyline as well with the clouds when you know coming over the necropolis.
I think that's when we sort of knew.
It looks beautiful.
It's when we knew the stars were aligning. I mean, this was a day where things went so well. And that includes me nearly knocking somebody out in outside the Goma. That includes there being a bit of confusion about what time the necropolis closed and whether officially we could get in there or whether we would have to kind of unofficially get in there. It includes a lot of retakes of me having to swallow diluting juice with cereal in it to recreate me vomiting. And Brian being very specific about making sure that we got a shot of it actually hitting the ground. And he wasn't happy until we achieved that. So I had to keep doing retakes of that. But basically, when we got to the necropolis, the sun was beginning to set. We knew we had a very rare opportunity when we could just see the sunlight crowning over the kind of brow of the clouds. And so the fucking drone just went up. And we had literally 3 or 4 minutes of light left, and it was just action stations, boom, 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 and you know, obviously you can see for the video that we managed to achieve everything that we set out to achieve. And I'll tell you something: the final shot on the bridge, which was complicated, it's hard to lip sync to "Don't Jump" because it doesn't have a drum beat. And it's sort of the words just flow in the space. And so lip syncing to that, no matter how much you know it, is extremely difficult. We had multiple cameras. Obviously, it was a very busy night in town as well. Once we got the shot, we went back to the cars, which were parked just by the riverside. And the minute that we got in the car and we shut the doors, the fucking heavens opened. Now, it had been threatened 100% chance of rain all day. It didn't rain. Didn't rain once. As soon as we got in the car at the end of the day and shut the doors, the rain started. And I was just sitting there and I just thought to myself, I just have a feeling that there's just something preordained about us doing this video, because it's not to say that it's profound. It's not to say that it's important. I don't mean it like that. I just mean all the energy of the day seemed to indicate that we were moving with something. You know what I mean? We were moving alongside something. There was no resistance. And it was a very pleasant experience, as difficult as a full day video shoot is.
Well, it already is important, as you can see from the reaction. There's already people saying that it's just gave them something to think about. It's been like, some people have used the word that it's changed their life already. some people said it's sad to see it reminds them of stuff, but they're glad that the message is getting out there. So congratulations to all you guys, Tommy, Gasp as well, for doing it. And I think that when we go into this winter, obviously it's been a shite year for most people. I know that some people actually have had quite a good year. I know some people that with depression or social anxiety that maybe worry about the fear of missing out are actually doing better this year, which is great to see as well. So it's not like we can't just assume that everyone's having a bad year, but we know for sure there's going to be a lot of people having a bad time of it, especially this winter. So I think it's really important that the video has came out in time for this period. I mean, any advice that you give to anyone who's maybe just struggling a wee bit over the winter?
I mean, I could definitely talk from my own experience that when I'm experiencing symptoms of a depression, I've learned to understand that that's my mind and body transmitting a distress signal to me to tell me that there's something going on in my life that needs to be resolved. Unfortunately, we live in a society and a medical model that isn't really trying to explore the root causes of anything. So we've been kind of indoctrinated slightly to go present symptoms and receive a formal diagnosis and treat it with medication, or to kind of to sort of anesthetize it ourselves using alcohol or drugs or other behaviours which are referenced in the song, like pornography, social media, and so on and so forth. So, I've learned that because I've got a certain level of experience in terms of recovery, if I'm doing basic things every day, I've got a good chance of not falling into the sort of intolerable emotional state where using drugs or alcohol starts to make more and more sense. But it takes a long time to get to that place, it takes a long time, and it's difficult because it's counterintuitive for you to feel depression and all of the lethargy that comes with that and the fear that comes with that, but also know that that's because you have to act in some way. You have to make a decision to act counterintuitively. So, for example, if you feel depressed, then you're going to isolate because your head is telling you that you don't want to be around people, when actually that's exactly what you need. And what you need is to be around people you can talk to, people you can be honest with, people who are invested in your well-being, and not necessarily people who just want to go and get pissed, although that can be fun as well. Same
it's
way
not fun
things
anymore.
Aye,
there's actually funds been made illegal, so there's really that's not an option anymore.
No, totally. But just generally, I find that when I'm experiencing depression, as much as it sometimes can feel like it's just a foreign invader that just exists for no reason, unless you're dealing with clinical depression, which is obviously needs to be treated with medically. The depression most people are referring to is just a general dis-ease that sets in because something about the way that we're living or our relationships or how we've expressed ourselves is out of alignment with the way that it should be. And rather than submit to the depression or think that it will just pass, it's often better, counterintuitive as it is, to try and act in some way opposite to what the head is telling you. So if it's telling you to stay in, you need to go out. If it's telling you to isolate, you need to connect. If it's telling you to eat shite, you need to get some fruit and drink some water. That's a good rule of thumb for me. Everybody's different, but that would be a general pointer for anybody that's struggling.
Water, because I've not drank for about a couple of months, once in 2 months, which is quite good for me, and no smoking and stuff. And I've noticed water, man. I didn't realise that the amount of water I didn't drink. I just seem to not think about it.
It's interesting, isn't it? And I think that's partly kind of by design of the consumer culture that we're in. We're told that these products are what are refreshing. We're told that these products are what will make us happy. We're told that these products will make us popular, will make us sexually attractive. We're told that they'll motivate us. Red Bull gives you wings, and on and on and on it goes. So it's quite it's not very sexy, is it, to just drink loads of water out the tap? But actually, that's the best thing for you sometimes. I certainly, and I know it's, who would have thought, Mark, maybe 10 years ago, when I was emptying your nights with my mad drunken rants, my Andy Kaufman impersonations, that years down the line would be sitting here sober, talking about mental health and how much we love drinking water. You know?
I'm just getting a flashback to the night where you were in a boot going, you know, and I think I was in the boot on the way there, and you were on a boot on the way back to play a gig, and you emptied a pub, or you didn't empty a pub, you got flung off stage, and because I was booked to play a gig in Ayrshire, and I did an acoustic set, a spoken word acoustic set. It was a really busy pub. And then you just went on, and I went, can Darren go to me? Oh yeah, you know, that'd be great if you jumped us on. And for some reason, you just did an Andy Kaufman. I don't know if you remember that one, but you just kind of sort of screamed into the microphone, and you kind of threatened as if you were going to maybe do a real song, so they would give you more time, and then you would do some more stuff. And everyone booed. Everyone was actually booing. We upset the whole place. We will not name the people involved. They were upset for days. I was
in a place in my life where that was registering as a success for me. So where I was as an artist and as a headspace was, I'm trying to get negative reactions, you know, and I think there is some kind of creative merit in going on that journey, but it was just at the same time, it was sort of, I realised it wasn't just kind of indulgent, but it was being misunderstood. You know, I think maybe you were the only person who knew roughly, you know what I mean, that I was emulating Andy Kaufman. I kind of forgot that other people weren't seeing that. They're just looking at an arsehole, and they're just thinking, this guy is really mean-spirited and arrogant, and he's just fucked up this whole vibe. And, you know, it's an interesting thing to look back on and say that was part of my creative process.
There was some funny moments. I mean, obviously it's frustrating when there was times when you just like, just do the gig, come on. But also it was funny, but I suppose it wasn't really. I suppose there was a lot of reasons behind that as well. I mean, the gigs you were playing weren't particularly weren't going to be career defining gigs. You're probably just a bit fed up in general. And I was actually doing a podcast myself earlier today, and someone asked me about deprecating lyrics. I've always done that, and I suppose I always have. And I think a lot of that was because at the start I was lacking confidence, and the idea was that if I make jokey songs, comedy, funny songs, I'm kind of laughing at myself, then no one can laugh at me, because I can just say, it's just a joke, I'm in the joke kind of thing. So you were maybe playing these gigs, and either consciously or subconsciously you're going, people are going to laugh at me for being a Scottish rapper. I mean, people need to remember it was a very different time. I mean, it's difficult now, but 10, 15 years ago, to be a Scottish rapper.
I think a lot of the time as well, I mean, back then I was taking so much Valium and drinking so much Buckfast, and I was so poorly nourished and under-rested that I would go into shows with a game plan which would quickly disintegrate because I didn't have any long-term memory access. So really I would just rely on the energy in the room and generate material and bits from what was happening. So if I was getting negative reaction, or even if the place was quiet, I would interpret that as disinterest. So then I would think, well, you're not interested. Well, I'm going to make you fucking interested by attacking you. And that was sort of my strategy. But that's actually been my strategy socially at different points in my life, you know. All my people that I call best friends now, a lot of them, you know, my first interactions with them were not good. You know, they were not good at all, because I think I adopted a kind of a personality type that kept people at a distance and worked on the assumption people didn't like me. So I'll give them a reason not to like me so that I can... is this you playing Frank Gregg? Oh, this is you?
No, this was you.
Take me or bleed me. You hate me just because I hate you.
Alright, we'll go back.
Mark, what's happening?
Does that represent what you're saying?
I don't have one, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just being approached about lighters here and I don't have one.
So what we're looking at here is that you had to go to rehab, I think.
Play those turns.
And so you sent me in this Andy Kaufman, because you were very much an Andy Kaufman spirit. So the idea was that why don't you play the gig? So I mimed it, and
Put your hands in the sky.
Forgot about that, man.
Yeah,
That was some stunt.
That was good, because some people thought I was Loki, and some other people gave me into trouble for trying
taking the piss,
for ruining. Taking the piss out of Loki. I was like, no, he said it was all right. He said it was all right. But at least you never cancelled your gig, man. That's the main thing. I'm going to play one of your. I want to play one of your tunes, man. I'm going to play Michael Keaton, which I think is an absolute banger, and what a beat from Sound Thief. Tell us a wee bit about that.
Aye, mate. That was when I was living with Sound Thief, so shout out to him. So we were living in the flat which was previously occupied by Marek and Brain. So Marek's dad had constructed the second of two massive booths that the being primarily used to record our material in that kind of between 2006 to 2012, and basically this was a studio. This was a booth that was set in a massive long cupboard, so it was perfect, and it had a window through to the other room, the control room, which was Sound Thief's bedroom. And so I remember the first thing he played me was just a loop of the do 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 do, but it was the drum break that caught my ear. Just because it's just a kind of classic boom bap sound, and I just like the groove of it. And then so I recorded all the vocal over that, and then sent it back and then gave it into Darren. And then a week later he came in just sort of as Darren does, sort of like, oh, I've got this is ready, no emotion, no indication of what is about to happen. And so anyway, put it on, and I'm just like, mate, what is this, man? Like, this is ridiculous, and this was going to be on the first album that I'd ever attempted sober and all that, so it was a moment where I was listening and I was like, man, I like this energy. Do you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, this is a good tune to reintroduce myself. Do you know what I mean? And I remember taking this tune to Edinburgh when I was pretty much universally hated in Edinburgh for different reasons, and going right into the heart of Edinburgh, right into the heart of a gig where all the people that hated me were all there, and just throwing this instrumental on and just absolutely wrecking fucking shop. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it was like, it just made me feel so confident. The beat, the way that it bangs, and all the different kind of flows and lyricism that you can get, all the change ups and the switch ups. And then I did the video. We did the video for it as well. Did that in a couple of hours as well, which was beautiful sunny day for it as well. So it worked out pretty well.
Chaz did a great job on it, and also there's a wee Easter egg there, folks. There's a wee Easter egg in this video if you like an Easter egg.
Throne glowing propane on your domain, no I'm known cocaine. You're doing an awful lot of the promo for a homo with no game. I suggest you hit the motorway, get in your own lane. Now I could hit you with 70 bars on how I am aspiring to be less of an ass, but that's so lame. I advise that you get in your car and go home. Loki, I'm off with no flame, but forgot his own name. I'm a money so me on my lonely most days. Coast to coast they quote me first until they got to know me. Moreover, doty most and they know I'm known, they know me. Go a fucking Tony for a 40 in my bobby. Wow, pass it to Cal, she's getting close to some power with a Mao, and he's acting a style. I thought she left me for battered and vows, so I said ciao with the gal, tear the now that she fancied the pow. Wow, pow, I was like, ow, fuck a pub time, I had the fucking booth with Darren and Al. And these rappers are cattle, and avatar of avatars, man, I'm strapped for the battle, and I'm having a gattle. This is something, son, cunts begging me to ditch the emo rap, get back to rapping cunts for fun, fucking run, cunts lose teeth when I bump my gums, hang your competition, but you're jumping the gun, you're my surrogate son, I run guns, plus I'm fucking every one of you cunts, buds, the milkman delivers, rum buns quicker than silver, plus I'm trudging up and on the wigger, cut the fucking fluff with a humdrum. Now I'm watching my weight, go figure. Trust funds coming by the lump sum. Dirty woman coming by the bucket, son. So hurry and get running. Feed my turret guns, I'm cumbersome and coming for the number one. God damn, I'm a player, and I have obtained a classical major from a bastard nature. Hazardous paraphernalia, lassie, I'm a nail, yeah. I am the mayor, pull my dick out the aquarium, it's snagged in Australia. My dick is enormous, Dickosaurus, it's the longest in accordance. Please excuse the inordinance and go buy a big dictionary or a thesaurus to check out why I am the bollocks. Follow the logic along the hallway to the obelisk and audibly nominate an esophagus and non-monotonous, and I will plot all of the proper coordinates in accordance with the laws and protocols of the zombies in the audience. It's a holocaust, I gotta drop a bomb and this is obvious. Your honour's up preposterous, I'm calling this. Why my knob in offices call the doctors. Saw the top dog in the office alone just with jaundice. Jobby's all in his Jordans, and a horrible problem with dropping god awful horrid monologues in a cordless. I don't give a flying fuck, I don't know why, but everything I fucking do is just gangsters fuck. I make big moves, I do big things, I drink coffee out a big cup. Can't emphasise I word big enough, give my dick a big up. 7-inch I couldn't fit it in your pickup. I don't mean to be boastful, but my penis is the reason that your mother is limping about the social. I'm a poet, I rap nemesis, I use pauses, and my verses it's a literary tool. Oh yes it is, the only way I can build emphasis. I like to gargle glass before I start some raps and hold my breath until my heart so fast I pass out in marble stars.
Can I hear that back?
Fuck a phony MC, I'm sonning them, run upon me, fuck real, I know you go here, son, I'm one of them. I done a run, I had to get the fuck for them, I had to fucking enough for them, and knew I had to turn to meet snuff for them. In the court of opinion, I'll be the judge of them. Lawyers better have a bloody word with them. Mark my fucking words, as long as cunts are still bumping their gums and fumbling words like a fucking dunce. Trust me, I'll gun for them. Well, I breeze a bit diminished, fees a kiddie cynic. Either eat a dick or eat a bits of spinach. You're finished, be a pretty critic, cookies a witty lyric. A cheesy stamp was pretty, we come here to shit on gimmicks. Been a while since I passed it on the line, no steaming. Vital feelings in my mind are teeming, time I'm meeting. I'll leave you in a final reeling anywhere that you rhyme as convenience. Primal here, I came here for the title meaning. I like competing, any mic I'm leaving wrecked. I like competing, check out anything you prepped. Michael Keaton, anytime convenient deck of rhyming. When it's insides are bleeding and I'll treat it wound with a level pint of semen. I'm the very prime reason that Jekyll and Hyde are gonna get a wine and leaving to forget a fine evening. Kiss a cup, a fucking bite of ceiling, time to get even. Tell them that I'm right between the fucking lines of reading. Art Deco, asking for your tempo, asking for the head coat, asking for the massacre to tell them. Answers on the back of a stamped envelope. You've got more track marks than a velodrome. Snap Geppetto at the elbow, Hansel, Shag and Gretel round the back of Central. In the granny's metro, stick a ladder for a carpet in a shell toe. Fly, fight, crawl at Peter Pan, stab a scarecrow, hands are Lego, brand is retro. And I leave anagrams for detectives so enamoured by my techno. Can I have a Kenko? Raging cause I finally got clean, you find I'm actually mental. Travis pass the kettle, can I invite you up the castle for a pint of blood Tabasco? A rascal, a fucking white knuckle wacko with a pipe puff and fine stuff tobacco. Line a fucking lasso on my saddle, for tonight I hunt Picasso. Any asshole talking out their neck wanna play, you'll get dealt for the bottom of the deck. Full throttle in the jet, rogue squadron's getting bottlenecked. There's a time for all the comical and jest. Put down the bottle for respect and learn the discipline to focus and get back to my abominable best. So take it how you like, this is not a bad vibe thing. Best leave me in my own head, well I'm king.
You call that radio? You call that radio TV? No. You call that radio TV?
This is You Call That Radio.
You're watching You Call That Radio TV. We're live with Darren, Loki, McGarvey. We'll be back on in a little second. Just a wee shout out to tomorrow's shows is Justin McLeish, a filmmaker from America who's going to talk about competitive Lego. See, we're actually changing up a bit. We've got competitive Lego, we've got a woman who puts bow ties and llamas, and we've got a guy who knows about dream books and stuff like that and synchronicity. So we're just changing up a wee bit. On Wednesday, we've got My Bad Sister. On Thursday, we have Chris Herron from New Hellfire Club Gonzo Division. On Saturday, we've got Amelia Baylor live from Capture Works. On Sunday, we've got the Creative Martyrs live from Capture Works. Gyro Babies live from Capture Works is already on our YouTube channel. Go and check that out. The Unplugged days. And on Friday we've got Joy France, a retired teacher who in her 60s decided to get involved in battle rap and is now an international battle rapper. What do you make of that, Dan? And retiring as a teacher to become a battle rapper?
Can be done, man. You know, I think one of the things that sort of my recent the video and all that sort of demonstrated to me is there's not really a kind of age limit on this, and a lot of the artists that I'm still listening to and who are in, like, you know, their 40s and 50s, you know, they're still delivering the goods. I think of guys like Royce the 5'9" or Black Thought in particular who've actually just improved over the years. So I think anybody who's got the passion and the talent, there's not really a limit on what they might want to do, even if they are a teacher. You know,
it
obviously,
seems like people are getting used to. I think there's just been just an increase in. I think that, well, just based on my own experience, that when I was growing up, it used to be that older rappers would try and be something they weren't, and that's why it didn't really work. But like you said, Royce and Aesop Rock as well, people are just sort of embracing their age. And the new album, Aesop Rock, just dropped. It's incredible as well.
Oh, it is, mate, especially the first half. He's been so consistent with his work in terms of just... and I've been inspired a lot, but I mean, I know Aesop's always been great, but I think his stuff remains abstract, but there's a lot more deliberate kind of literary quality to it in terms of just... it's like reading a book. You know, in terms of the metaphors and the characters that he depicts, even if it's not a full story, you just get these snapshots of observations and situations, and you get real depth every time you listen to it. And the same with Royce. I mean, his recent 3 albums, The Allegory, Layers, and the one in between them, the one that had... God, I can't even believe that the album escapes me. The one that had cocaine on it and all that. You know, just proper works of art. And the same as, like, I still check for the UK artists that I kind of grew up listening to. You know, Jest has got a recent EP out. He's sounding really fresh on it. Lovely production. I think as long as you're staying true to yourself, then... you know, you can continue to do this as long as you like. And because hip hop's such a young, as you say, genre in the context of other genres, it's just because we've not been used to seeing people of a certain age doing it. It's always about youth culture, but that's the music industry that drives that perception.
Absolutely,
really, because
man.
In reality, carry on.
Yeah, man. I think. Sorry, I was just agreeing with you that. It is just like there's lots of music industry, for example. I know that lots of females worry about getting older because the music industry will reject them. Basically, it's harder for females, especially. But I think that people that are worrying about that, they're worrying about the major label thing. The point is that we've got internet now, and if you can create your fan base, then the fan base is going to support you whether you get old, because your fan base ages as well. And I think it was just quite short-sighted of the music industry to just want to sell to the same demographic of 16 to 30, not realising that there's these amazing artists, a lot of artists mature with age and get better, and their fans want to continue to go to their shows regardless of what age they're.
Aye, well, I think also that was partly about targeting products at kids with disposable incomes, but those demographics have all changed now because the way that money's generated from music is different. So I think that you'll see that reflected in the shelf life of artists, whether they're in a label system or whether they're independent. I mean, I was just talking to Marek, a friend of mine, member of the Bean MCs. He's got a bunch of plaques in his room, you know what I mean? Like
he's doing great, man.
He's engineering. I mean, the whole crew's doing great. You know, we might not be as visible as some of the other crews that's out there, but I mean, we've made careers out of what we do. Do you know what I mean? Like, we make a living off of what we do. And we were just kind of talking. We talk about lots of things when we speak, and you know, he was just talking about, you know, what he's always telling artists is, if you can afford not to sign to a major label, then don't. Because one of the good things about social media and the different tools and technologies that are available is that if you take the time to learn what you're doing, like what you're doing, Mark, with this, I mean, the quality continues to improve in the podcast in terms of, you know, your presentation, but also the way that it appears, you know what I mean? All the wee different things that just give it that legitimacy and add a certain kind of character to it. But that's a massive undertaking, a massive learning process. It involves different types of equipment and acquiring this thing and that thing and dealing with the constant technical problems and the constant kind of emotional and mental labour of who's the next guest, what are we talking about, keeping on top of all that stuff. So, but people who are prepared to put that work in, particularly in a year like this, where people who are not resilient in the face of what's been going on or were half-arsing it, they're not going to survive. They might be able to kid themselves on. That they'll be able to survive in terms of their output musically and all of that. But I think, as cruel as it is, and I would rather this wasn't the case, this is going to move a lot of pieces off the chessboard in terms of who you're competing with as well. People are going to have to go back to the drawing board and think, how do I operate in this sort of environment? So as much as it's been difficult, there will be innovation, capture works and all of that. These streaming services that are coming online now for people to continue to work in lockdown. So just across the board, there's always opportunities whenever, shit hits the fan. And it's no fair all the time the way these opportunities are distributed. But obviously, if people are in a position to take advantage of it, then they absolutely should. And that includes old fogies like me, 36-year-old cunts rapping and all that,
Old cunts like myself, like the idea of doing a live stream, man. I'd never even done a video call before lockdown, because when you're growing up and you're watching all the sci-fi or James Bond and everyone's talking to, usually the bad guys go on a big screen having video calls, and I always thought that'd be amazing. Imagine we could have video calls, and then when they actually came out, they freaked me out. The idea of it freaked me out, but I've just had to kind of get on with it because that's all you can do. I'd have been fucked if I didn't do this show, and thank you to the patrons, because like you said, man, if you were to take a snapshot from the first time you were on this show, which was maybe day 2 of lockdown, I had no lighting, I had no, none of this equipment, and that's down to the people who support the patrons. In fact, I should actually shout out them. The new patrons this month is Oliver, Alan, Marion, Charlotte, Bob, Tracy, Ross, Anna and Ian. And you kind of lose about 10 a month and you gain about 10 a month at this rate, which I'm happy with. 200's the goal, man. We're at 180 for the first time ever. And if we could get to 200, that means that I can actually afford to exist as a person.
Mm-hmm. Aye, and that's quite quick as well, the way that things have progressed, and like you say, incomes are squeezed, so people will immediately be looking for ways that they can save money. So, they might have been generous with a Patreon here or there, and then they're like, actually, I can't afford that. But, other people then can. So I think it's done really well, Mark, in terms of, and you've been dead dedicated to it, you're dead consistent with it. I think that's all part of the what helps to grow the audience and grow the brand. Is that I hate talking all these corporate terms, but this is the
I hate
language.
as well with the word brand and content. They're the 2 words I hate most, but this year especially, it's hard to avoid the word brand or content.
Aye, it is indeed. But I think like we've always sort of just tried to kind of sail the choppy seas, or whatever the fuck's going on. And I think that resilience and that character serves as well later on, as we screw the nut a wee bit and start drill down and focus on exactly what it is we're trying to achieve.
One of the lyrics in the Michael Keaton video, which we watched, which still bangs, shouts to Chaz, did a great job on it, is get sober to find out I'm actually mental, Travis passed the kettle. Now, I relate to that so much now. When you actually go a sober stint and you go, oh shit, right, okay, I'm actually mental.
Aye, I mean, what you realise is that the drinking's no the problem, you're the problem, and it's like it's a process, isn't it? Because every time you're drinking, you're not really.
You can blame it on the hangover. You can just blame it on the hangover and just say, right, okay, it's cool. I'm gonna get pissed at the weekend, so it's fine.
Aye,
but you've got to face a lot more stuff.
Aye, exactly. I mean, thinking about when I think about the amount of gigs that you've put on and the amount of artists that you've gave opportunities and just what a kind of cornerstone of the Scottish music scene and industry that you've been, as unacknowledged as I believe that is in certain quarters, at the same time, it's a tremendous amount of stress every time. And so you can understand why having a drink helps to make that a less unpleasant experience. but actually, I found that, the initial foray into doing music without alcohol was difficult because of all the associations I had with people and venues. But then it made me sort of start to go, well, what of this do I actually need to do, and what I can actually just set aside? So I stopped saying that to every gig, and I stopped going into situations where I felt uncomfortable, or I would always have an exit strategy before I went into a place. And so you kind of, as you're learning, you develop ways to manage and recreate, how you function without leaning on that crutch. And then it means, if you do pick up a drink or whatever, you've got a new level of capability to draw on as well, so that the alcohol's not so much something that goes hand in hand with what you're doing, but it's supplementary to what you're doing. And that I can't do that because I'm just constitutionally incapable of processing alcohol. I've got a head that tells me I can drink and a body that can't deal with it and just has a mad reaction to it. But some people find, after a period of cessation of alcohol, they can return to it a bit more responsibly. But it's up to individual people to decide for themselves what they are,
Let's talk about the podcast. So Darren Speaks, I'm loving that, man. And there's been a couple of comments about it as well. So for people that don't know, it's good because you did start one right at the very beginning of the lockdown called Walk and Talk, and then it just disappeared, which I was a wee bit... But I know you're always so busy and you're also dealing with the stress of, having lockdown with a full family and all the stuff that goes with that. But it's great to see it coming back, and, there's been a couple of episodes that you've just sounded on top form.
Aye, thank you, man. There's a sort of regularity issue with the podcast, but I think that's part of... I think hopefully the audience understands that that's just the nature of the way my life is just now. It's difficult for me to set aside specific times to do things, just because of lockdown, having young children. I have a partner who works and is just lots of moving parts in life. So it's difficult to say it's coming out at this time every single week. But I think the thing that kind of clinched it was that I was approached by Paul Shields from Rebel City podcast, who also produces a number of other podcasts out of Glasgow. And he made me an offer I couldn't refuse, which is exactly what I was looking for, which was, I just want you to go in and talk and then just send me the audio and I'll do everything else. And we'll build it from there. And that suits me, That's why I bought this mic, because it can be plugged into a phone or it can be plugged into a laptop, and I just have a wee bit cleaner audio quality, but logistically it's pretty straightforward. So I think we've done 7 episodes. One of the good things about it as well is that I can generate a lot of content in the course of a week, which I can then port to different sort of media. So, if I write a newspaper column about the hate crime bill, I could do a podcast about it using the main thrust of the column as the talking points. Also gives me notes.
Well, I suppose it depends what way you do it, but if you're to release an article, you're thinking about that all week, or for a couple of days at least, or a day when you're writing it, and then when you post it out, you're getting lots of your followers commenting and responding to it as well. So, because I think you've always been quite good at that, is having a think about something, writing your opinion on it, but then also having a good listen to what other people have got to say, and especially people that are maybe more directly affected by the issues you're talking about, and admitting it when you fucked up, because you have done that a few times as well.
Absolutely. That's all part of the process, and I think that's what a lot of people enjoy about my stuff. I've got quite a politically diverse audience of people who are consistently coming to read or listen to what I have to say, even though ideologically that we might not couldn't be more different. And that's, I guess that's a kind of that's actually a strength for me, as much as sometimes it might lead to me taking my time to really understand what my true position on something is, or it might appear that I lack conviction in some areas. But I think when I'm really kind of in the zone, I still have that young activist, straight down both barrels approach at times, and I let my emotions drive things from time to time. But obviously, I need to be careful about my energy levels and all that as well. So sometimes it suits me emotionally to sit back and just contemplate shit. and listen to other viewpoints. And also, I like to, the podcast is good because I can take notes in with me when I do it, because then it means that I can express myself as clearly as possible, thus removing or ameliorating the risk of being misinterpreted or taken out of context, which has happened in the past, and it's no fun. So long form chat, or moderately long form chat, is a good vehicle for me personally.
I recorded the first episode of my audio podcast because I've not really done that since lockdown began. I've obviously been busy doing this, but I'm aware that for a lot of people, I actually prefer the format of audio podcasts as well, because it just means that if I'm out and about, I can just, find it on my app, and it's more convenient in a lot of ways. And just by doing it today, it was good because you've got all these thoughts that when you actually say them out loud, it's straight away you start getting ideas for songs. Maybe that's the brain trying to distract you from doing the audio podcast. But there's something about saying your thoughts out loud as well, that you start finding a rhythm to it, and you think, okay, yeah, there's something in that maybe that could, it's inspiring as a writing point of view, that maybe that can maybe go into a song, or maybe in your book as well, because we've not even touched on the book. I'm sure that all this kind of goes in just by writing your weekly article, telling that in a podcast, and maybe some of this, the best bits, can make it into the new book. And how's the new book coming along?
Aye, okay. I've not been at it really for about 3 weeks. I was finishing filming for the next TV series. Although a lot of the research for this book took place during that filming, I got to do a lot of interesting things. Playing cricket, I went grouse hunting, I went pigeon racing, things that are traditionally associated with the upper classes. I got a chance to kind of get an insight into, how the other half lives. And so, that helps me to broaden the scale of the next book, to really send a signal to the reader. This isn't about Glasgow. This is about Britain. This is about the societies and the Western culture, the class differences, and so on and so forth. But obviously, it takes a time to process that. But I think I'm very solid in what the book is about. The kind of working title now is the social distance between us. So using that sort of motif of social distancing to talk about relative class experiences and how that ravine between us creates the potential for a lot of disharmony and acrimony and political and economic dysfunction and decline ultimately. So it's good. I feel good about it. It's not happened as quick as I would have liked, but it's just been a process of acceptance really, and not making decisions based in fear. Just it'll be ready when it's ready, and everybody around me just has to understand that, and they do. So I'm not buying into any kind of potential stress I might get from the corporate level of publishing, because I've got my mental health and my family and all that to consider.
And your family's in your office, so it's hard for you to do too much. But I love the fact that you got that eureka moment of social distancing, which is amazing.
I definitely. I mean, I think when I'm in inspiration mode, I'm very malleable to what's going on, and I join the dots pretty well. And I've had feedback about this as well for the director of the series and all that. He says he likes the way that I can take lots of different subjects and then piece it all together. And I think that I think one of the reasons I can do that is because I'm not really an expert on anything, but I have a cursory knowledge of a lot of different things, enough to certainly kind of bring them into my writing. And so once I start to understand how things join up, then it just becomes about what's the most effective way to put that across to the reader. And I think most people are like me. They have a cursory understanding of different things. They're not experts or geniuses in a particular area. So that actually serves the book well, as much as real experts might think some aspects of what I talk about lack depth. With poverty, I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable, both experientially and academically, and all the other different domains of understanding that included in that. But you also want to draw on history and science and culture and politics and sociology. And I have enough understanding of these things to sort of loop that into the book as well, without it becoming too bogged down and citations and academic style writing, which is obviously very tedious. So it's getting there, mate.
And I think that comes into as well, that's the kind of rapper in you as well, that it's just staying on topic. So obviously as a writer you're always looking for links and things that kind of tie in together. So that kind of, that's probably why you can look at a few things and go, right, that reminds me of that, and that reminds me of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play something, one of your freestyles, and then I'm going to give people one last chance to ask a question. So let us know in the comments if you've got a question for Darren. I know that I don't want to take you much longer. We're nearly at 2 or so. If we play a wee freestyle, give people a chance to comment, and then we'll wrap things up, man. Cool. Time for a smoke. It's your wavy freestyle. What was? I think this was around about the time where you had some beef with Audacity, if I remember rightly.
That it was ongoing. I think probably people more people had knowledge of the beef than I did at the time. I walked into that a bit blind. I didn't know I had any beef, but it was just a kind of crossed wires, really. You know what I mean? But it was like once I kind of got into the mode where I was like, nah, I need to engage this because people wouldn't leave it alone. It got to the point where you had people at jails and this and that speculating about basically that he would just rip me, you know what I mean, if I had to face him or confront him. And the rapper in me was just like, oh man, are you serious? Do you know what I mean? So it was like there came a decisive moment where I understood what was going on and done enough research that I was ready to battle any day. And then I just thought, right, let's flip the script here. Let me let him know that I understand what's happening, and then we'll see how the psychology of that all plays out. So it was quite fun, as juvenile as it was, and it all ended well. But for some reason, even when I'm not trying to get myself into fucking rap beefs, they just seem to come to me anyway.
It's shouts to Audacity. So this was Audacity put out a diss tune. This was the comeback, and then obviously there ended up being a rap battle. But we'll talk about that after the thing.
Being MCs, Loki, Wavy. Kick in the door, waving my house keys. Your Moz gas rules everything around me. I just ran 10k while a chicken's marinating in the oven, mate. I'm unsure what part of me these rappers think they're fucking with. Fuck how to rob. Cunts need to learn how to wash, how to hold down a job, how to jump off my cock. I was gone for a minute, now I'm back. Fuck off. I had that hat in 96, mate. Take your stupid wee gloves off. If you're trying to convince us all you're a drug lord, what are you using hairdryers and dressing like a bird for? Wee man, your dad's got one ball. Your ma's a fuck doll. Facebook rappers think they're KT Tunstall. Cunts confusing mental illnesses with skunk withdrawal. Cunts confusing rap careers with a pub crawl. Oh, you did a stint in the clink, whatever. Big up in the only sentence your stupid arse has ever managed to string together. Here, keep your tips about what's real to yourself like a good deed. At least till you exist outside the news feed. YouTube's in your views, they need to tell you. I'm coming through the radio, the papers, and the telly. When you look at me, if you see a shite bag, it must be your reflection in the bottom of that pint glass. I ball so hard my band's got a brass neck section. Next question. The shit I talk's news, so here's a hard question. Why's your shit talking crew not even make the art section? Let me tell you what I'm about. Flipping my first book advance to put my 20th album out. Turn up at your gig with signed pictures of myself and just hand them out. Even vegans are seeking beef, I see you need a 3-piece at least if you're seeking to compete with me. Bring it, I'm in it to win it. See that bullshit, kill it. I don't even read the paper when I'm in it. Acting like you're for the school with the hard knocks. I'm for a scheme, what having a Mondaz posh. News just in, Loki still raw. Being MCs is who I kill for. Oh, Loki, what you in for? I'm in for ripping jaws with my dick and balls and your maws. When it comes to paper gangsters in a rip shop, every style got it in stock like Hitchcock. Mate, you're slower than a round of golf. You're sweeter than the pound shop. You know what I'm about, boss, bite my style and I'll rip your fucking mouth off. Sucker MCs darkening my doorway, joking for a hole, would he be skipping all the foreplay? Let's see, should I go back and forth with you for 4 days, or go home and watch my son pissing in his own face? Some people aren't happy till they start an argument. I'm holding all the cards, so who you trying to barter with? I beg your pardon, I was gonna give your bird this week out starter kit, but your ma doesn't want to part with it. Try to play me like a stunt double. Well, I got your woman twerking on my love muscle, and son, you're some cuckold looking on stunned while I'm going all up in a cunt stubble on a scum shuttle. No even music comes before your mother's fun tunnel. I get it jumping like my number of your bird's journal. So see that bucky and the drugs, you better don't run them, and tell your crew if they don't think I'm number one, fuck them. Bad case of the man rage, with a face like you better stick a tongue in a fan blade. If you're gonna push the envelope my way, at least double check the stamps paid, cause I'm a rattlesnake that holds court between the hay and the grass where the traps laid. You're a fat Jake due to stand on a rake. I've got your whole crew asking for collabs and a haters listed 20 times the size of your fan base. If you're thinking you're my rival, you're out your dial. I'll board the flight and put the plane into a downward spiral. Man, you could have been viral, but now you're suicidal. While your bird blows me like a Tuesday gyro in foot asylum. Cunts go to chill, you know the drill, I'm no 5-0, but my rap sheet's paying old bills. Bun just out the oven, 4 careers in a slow grill. I suggest you take your hands back in your own till. Bring your place to a standstill. Every one of you mad shells know the damn drill. Don't get me started on rap skill. Stand back, keep your jazz hands out my cash till. I'm about to drop that anvil on every daffodil growing out the landfill. But it's stomp through your anthill, wearing shoes that you can't fill, screaming don't hunt what you can't kill. Peace.
Brothers and sisters,
Is that you, Daniel? Are you before me?
Call that radio.
You call that radio.
Hello?
Hello, yes, this is Dog.
You call that radio. More like a TV show. On almost every night. It's gonna be streaming live. You call that radio. More like a TV show. On almost every night. It's gonna be streaming live. You call that radio.
Yes, it's called that radio. And you just witnessed the freestyle from Darren. Is how do you walk this thin line between being like an Orwell Prize winner, BAFTA nominated guy, and then just talking about folks' mods? I mean, you've more pumping and stuff. Do you just deliberately just do it to wind people up, or because I noticed that you do it on Twitter? You're not shy about it. You're not trying to hide this side of you.
Nah, well, I mean, a lot of people I look up to, actually, as much as they've got a certain professional designation. In social media, they kind of show all different facets of their personality. You know what I mean? So again, it lets me know that that's okay for me. Obviously, I like to sort of partition certain things off from one another. So if I'm going to Cardiff to speak at a conference about homelessness, then I'm not going to be bringing the battle raps into the equation. But I guess I guess in some ways it would have been a lot simpler for me to set rap down and just walk away and fully engage and immerse myself in all this other stuff. But the truth is, I'm really passionate about hip hop. I love rap. I think about lyrics every day. I'm noting things down all the time. I'm always listening to instrumentals. I'm always listening to hip hop. So you know, like it's funny watching that freestyle back, man. Like it's, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm feeling bad about what I'm saying. You know, so it's weird because it's not just the thin line between the books and the rapping. It's the thin line between me being somebody is sometimes over empathetic to the point where I will still feel bad for the person who's trying to victimize me. But when I switch and I turn that off, I'm fucking cold, man. Like I was just watching that and I was like, you're fucking cold. That's brutal, that stuff you're saying. Because it's not just him that's getting dissed in that. That's full of Easter eggs for lots of people at the time. And I was just remembering that. I was just like, man, you're just being a bit gallus there. That was me willing to engage 5 people at least at the same time who must have all got the indirect that came their way. And then obviously most people will listen to that and say this was the Audacity thing, which primarily it was. But there was a few jabs in there for people. Some of them probably no bright enough really to pick them up. But there you go.
And obviously, it all ended happily ever after. There was obviously it was a bit of a big deal at the time, and then but it was a beautiful ending to that. That's the beautiful shouts out to Audacity. There was a big battle, raised money for Lumo, and just it ended well. And that's the beauty of hip hop. Sometimes,
aye, that's the way it can go. I think what happened was, I think there was a sort of perception of me, I think, as I went into sobriety that I wasn't up for the confrontation, and so then people start throwing the term shite bag around and all that, and for some reason that's a hard thing to get called when you're first scheme. So you get sort of drawn into the conflict because you realise that the practical business of actually being able to exist with other people thinking that they can attack you is that you've got to make an example of the bully. And that's something that I learned in a very young age. And I just have different strategies at different times in my life for different types of bully. But the bully always gets addressed in the end. It's just a case that it's got to be on my terms. But he took it in good form. And I think, you know, I started adopting a language that he understands. And that's how we began to communicate. And that included accepting the offer to battle, but then immediately setting the terms of where it would happen and how it would happen. And I think he respected me turning up to the venue by myself, completely sober, looking him in the eye, getting on the stage, ready for whatever might have happened, because there was a lot of bad blood there. And you know, afterwards, I think we developed a deeper respect for each other. And I didn't realise actually that we were quite similar age-wise, you know, because I know a lot of his associates in Edinburgh have been the younger rappers. And so I just assumed that he was a bit younger. So that was partly why I didn't engage in the first place, because it felt like a bit of a mismatch. But then I think once I started to understand he was kind of age-wise sort of in my weight class, then I thought, right, okay, cool, well, I'll just go for this. But it was in good spirits and resolved to a good conclusion.
We've got a couple of questions coming in. It's we got how's the cat?
Still alive, unfortunately. Kidding on. We just bought door stoppers and a cat flap. So this is to try and keep the cat locked on the stair, because the cat's now trained me to get up.
Not in lockdown.
The cat has now trained me to get up and let it look out the back at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it doesn't even want to go out. It just wants to look. It just wants to gaze upon the back garden from the comfort of the house. And it rattles my bedroom door. And this is after sleep training 2 children. Then you have to deal with a cat that wants to wake you up, you know. So we got door stoppers and a cat flap need to get fitted, but that's all been purchased today. So fingers crossed the cat will survive. Because when I get woke up in the middle of the night, I'm not a nice person, do you know?
Kevin Farquhar, do you think creativity comes in fleeting moments? And can you teach anyone what freestyle is, or is it just being in the flow?
Well, there's freestyle in the true sense, which is complete improvisation. maybe incorporating a few elements of something that's pre-rehearsed or pre-rendered in some way. And that's trickier because that is all about confidence. So that's about having the confidence that the words that you're looking for will be there, and also having the ability to kind of keep things ticking along until you get a solid idea that you can deploy. But what's commonly referred to as freestyle now is actually pre-written. So that's when you have maybe a couple of verses that you would do over a random instrumental, or at a showcase or an open mic or a cypher. And
I've got a rap called My First Rap Song that Robbie for the Gyro Babies slagged me for it, called it My First Rap Song, and that was my freestyle that I could do in any situation to any backing music. And but yeah, for 7 years. This Off the Dome freestyle, it's an argument that comes up maybe once a month on Facebook.
Yep. It's something you need to be well practiced. It wasn't my natural. I could do it, but it wasn't something that I invested a great deal of time in, because I was always more interested in the writing process and making sure that the verses showcased a lot of skill and wit and wordplay. But I admire freestyling as a part of the art form, and definitely know personally people who, like, BA, for example, who on his day, on a good day, you would struggle to tell the difference between a pre-written verse of his and a freestyle verse of his. That's how good he is, and a lot of people have achieved that level of ability and notoriety.
I remember freestyling with you in Gasp in a house years and years ago, and like you said, I just felt comfortable enough to do it. I mean, I wasn't very good, but I appreciate what you're saying with the confidence thing, because there has been times where I've been confident enough, usually in a house party or maybe even on stage once or twice, kind of in a jam vibe where you can do it. But like yourself, I think it's just like I overthink my lyrics. Like, I really think hard about what I want to say and write down. So for me, it's difficult. I find it difficult to just blurt out things without running it through some sort of censor to see, is this good? Is this a good lyric, or is this pointless, or does this even make any sense?
Aye, but then I think wee Rab, good pal of mine, part of our crew as well, and he doesn't really say much that makes sense, whether he's freestyling or no.
But he's funny.
He's pretty. No, I know. But what I mean is, he's pretty much just a banter generator. Like that's his whole thing. He just arrests your attention by a complete onslaught of banter, and that's in conversation. That's anywhere you could choose to mention, and also in a cipher. And the key for him is to no think about it at all. You know what I mean? So he just sort of rolls and is naturally humorous. And I think there's a relationship between being not being self-conscious, too self-conscious, and just sort of being willing to the possibility that you might look a bit stupid, that frees you to actually like deliver a freestyle that's entertaining. Because some people are doing it for the MC perspective and it's got to be dope and blah blah blah, and then other people are doing it for the fun. You know what I mean? And so like that's there's all different types, but I think Rab's type of freestyle is probably the most entertaining because it's just hysterical.
Absolutely, because at least he's going to be funny, even if it doesn't always make sense or doesn't always rhyme properly. I think that's why people slag the pre-written battle raps, but not many people can freestyle to a good level. And also, like you said, on a good day, so even some of the best freestylers, if they're just having a bad day, it's not clicking for them. So I prefer to watch a pre-written battle rap than a freestyle battle, just because it's not likely to be good, is it?
Well, there are elements of freestyle in pre-written battles. I mean, really what gives somebody the edge in a pretty evenly matched battle is their ability to freestyle flips based on what somebody has said to them. So you're responding to what somebody has said to you that got a good audience response. So in your mind, I've got to flip that back on them because the audience is on their side because what they said against me is funny. So that's freestyle. That's thinking on your feet. That's sort of a level of acuity and agility that can be a decisive factor in an evenly matched battle. But just for the fun, you know what I mean? It's just good banter as well.
It's good when you see somebody who's standing, and you can tell they've got the smile on their face that they've got the flip. I've seen that happen to yourself before, where it's like you know that there's a flip coming. So does that come with confidence as well?
I mean, I'm fortunate in the sense that, I mean, like most people with red hair, you have to learn how to retort very quickly when you're getting slagged, in order to sort of like derive some sense of self-respect when you're growing up. So I was always quick on the draw when it came to the verbal sparring before I even got into rap. So I've got a mind that seems to concentrate itself when there's a conflict. So that's why I was able in, battles to get the upper hand at points. And then in other battles where I was just no generally invested in it, battling out of politeness or battling for an event or doing something and my heart's not in it. These are the battles I tend not to perform well in. It's got to be personal for me, you know what I mean? So
I remember people used to walk up to you and battle you at a certain time.
Aye, I know, man. I was a bit of a ticket in my day. Do you know what I mean? Everybody had to prove themselves, and at the time, I didn't take it as a compliment. I just thought everybody's victimising me. So my attitude towards people was terrible, because I didn't realise that actually they're paying me a compliment. I just thought everybody's trying to fight me all the time.
Been horrible to you.
I just thought, why
in a world where
me?
people are just walking up. That's mad, man. Nobody's really can prepare you for that stuff. A couple
people
more
coming
questions.
back.
Sorry, man.
No,
On you
carry
go.
on.
Finish up.
I remember years ago, guy came to a battle to stab me. You know what I mean? Like, literally came to a battle to stab me. Just all sorts of things, Is
that
like
why
madness.
the So Nasty song?
Aye, exactly. And I came across that guy years later. And I remember I found out where he worked and I went into the shop in the West End steaming one day and I just told him, I was like, mate, what you fucking said to me that night was awful and you're this and you're that. And then I remember a wee time later, getting word from, apologising basically. Because we were just all bams, you know what I mean, to be honest. It was just all bams, battling bams and just being bams basically.
I'm just going to play just a clip of that tune because I think it's relevant. So this is just a wee clip.
The music we will play does not represent what you say, duplication of musicians past, but to give you an insight on how we had to go about really learning our skills.
And what year is this, man? Just to give it a bit of context, do you remember? This is the first tune I ever heard of yours.
This is 2004, 2005 was when a lot of this was written. I think I put it out 2005 maybe. It's hard to say. The first album was 2003 and this came out quite soon after, but there was a couple of projects in between.
And if you've not heard this one, I think this is well recommended. Friendly World.
Why am I so nasty? Why am I obnoxious? Why when I grab a mic do I come out in blotches? Why do people want to pay money to come and watch us? Snigger while I'm rapping and after it trying boxes. I don't know, but I'll have a go and figure out. So if you're snigger now, bring a blade and you can hang around. While I bring the crowd and they're singing loud, ringing loud. You can look at me and think you better see the thing I found lately. Maybe the reason people hate me and slate me is because I flow so greatly. Maybe if these babies that just constantly degrade me wouldn't hate me if they fought for a minute, they could shake me or break me. If you hate me just because I hate you, that shows how hard you're all trying to imitate me. Beat is so lyrical, done so mystical. If they'd made an album, you'd be saying they're egotistical.
Yo.
And So Nasty. Brilliant stuff.
Aye,
it's still good. It's still a good album, man. It's still a good album.
Aye, it's because it's similarly to the stuff that's just been put out. It's coming from a raw emotional space. You know what I mean? So for all its flaws, it still kind of resonates. And I think a lot of people hold that album close to their heart because it was the first time they had heard it, or it was the beginning of their journey into hip hop in Scotland, and it was at the time it was the new thing. You know what I mean? And I was the new guy. And so it was like, it was a buzz around what I was doing. And I was honing these CDs out. No, I was when you were pressing your CD and you were just throwing it out at different places. So it was the sort of thing that was like hard to get a hold of. But in certain communities, it was like it was a coveted thing to get a hold of. So it was just a good buzz back then, you know. But I don't miss those days either, you know, because you don't realise how fucking dangerous everything is at the time. Because you're just jumping about, man, in a wee bubble. But it's very dangerous when you're young and you're in the hip hop scenes. You're always over asserting yourself. You're always unaware of who's really watching you and what's really going on, because you're just immersed in being a hardcore rapper. You don't realize you're talking and saying things and acting in certain ways. You know what I mean? It's heavy off key. You know, but that's all part of being young, I guess.
Probably the time for the one more question, and that would be about I Wish I Was Dead. Is that going to be a single? I think Andrew was asking, somebody was asking that. Yeah, is it going to be, yeah, Gregor, could it be a charity single, or have you got any plans to release it? Because obviously there's a demand for people who would love to download it or stream it, what's happening with
it? The video was comprised of 2 separate songs, which will be released on streaming platforms in the next couple of weeks. So Run To It, produced by Jim Sutherland, and Don't Jump, produced by Tony Smoke. The album, in terms of whether I tie it into a charitable cause, I'm not sure, because like everybody, I've took a big financial hit this year. And historically, you know, my Christmas shows and different things I've done, I've done my bit in terms of charity work and donating money to this, that, and the next thing. So the amount of investment that I've put in this album financially, I think that what I have to offer is just the work itself this time. I don't think I'll be offering a percentage of any money that's made to this cause or that cause, because you know, it's been a tough year financially, and man, my kids' childcare is costing about £900 a month alone. Do you know what I mean? So I really personally just I'm going to keep the money to myself, I think, this time.
That's fair enough, man. So it'll be, the album's probably next year sometime. You promised it'll be out next year. And the singles will be available to stream in the next couple of weeks. Is there any other way to support what you're doing? Understand you've got most of your stuff on Bandcamp if people want to support the music.
I mean, the biggest thing that supports me is to share and interact with the content when it comes out. You know, that's the best way to do it. I'm not really needing anybody to spend money at this point. What I am interested in is hearing what people think of the stuff, and also them sharing that with their friends, and really just helping to spread the word with the music. That's the most tangible benefit for me. When I see the reach that things get, that encourages me to continue to create music. So thanks to everybody for the support in the last few days with this, and I look forward to delivering the album next year.
That's a very good point for everyone. You're good at it as well, Darren. You're one of the few people that does, when you see something you like, you hit the share button or put a comment on. It takes a second to do, and it makes all the difference. So definitely share this stuff. Any final thoughts, Darren, before we wrap it up?
Just cheers for getting us on. Do you know what I mean? Good opportunity to chat and catch up. And just thanks to people who have tuned in, you know, whether they tuned in for the whole time or whether they tuned in and tuned out. Grateful for the interest, and hope everybody's okay.
Brilliant stuff, man. Well, I'm going to finish with, have you got any, what's your favourite tune to finish on, man? I'm going to let you go, but if you've got, is there a song that you've made that you still think, yeah, I'm proud of that one?
I think maybe on my SoundCloud. I don't know if I took it down or not. There might be a tune called, it's a remix of a tune actually. It's a Portishead remix that Physics done of a tune that will be on the album, but it won't have the Portishead beat. It's called The Fourth Wall or something. It's like a demo version.
And what's your SoundCloud name again?
Mr. Loki. Mistaloki.
All one word?
Aye.
I don't know, it's not there, I can't see it. I don't know.
Hang on. Wait there, let me look. SoundCloud. There it is.
Send me the link in the private message, man, and I'll bring it up then.
Hang on, actually, I'll send you this. I'll send you this one I did with Ash, actually, the Rise and Shine tune. Hang on. Just need to copy, and then I'll send you the link. Here it is.
Nice one.
There it is. This is one I done with Ash. That's a bit more upbeat and tempo wise and all that. Go for that.
Good stuff. Nice one, Dan. Go and everyone check out the new podcast. Have you got a new one coming out in that?
I've got a couple of interviews like this. I'm going to republish this podcast actually. So I did one with Donna Boyd for Son of Govan, and the audio for this I'm going to re-up onto my other thing and shout out your podcasts and all that. So
nice one, man.
That'll be it. And then I've got a bunch of other content that I want to do, hopefully when I get a bit of time.
Good stuff. Nice one, Dan. Great to talk to you. All
Cheers,
the best.
mate.
See you soon.
Rise and shine, the stars in the sky are aligned as I'm rubbing his eyes on mine with the hands of time. Woke up in a past life, but I'll get the visor wiped and try and concentrate this tired mind to see beyond the mirage of my Viking sights gradual decline. I'm mapping a master rhyme to the rising tide beyond the horizon line, and while the fire inside might be passing its prime, it's still the you like sparkling light on a starry night. In front of me I see a wall of resistance, behind a wave of irresolvable contradictions. Fiber optic filaments lit with a response inexplicably awful diction, as an audience of commoners are watching me from an ominous distance. Inoperable disfigurements are now optional, like a mortal existence to stand before you in optimal condition.
Aggression and flow, bolt on, uploading.
Give me that mic, boy, fuck your battle bars, fuck your mazzers. We handlebars, stick a jam tart on the apple cart and pour the bent off a cattle farm. Let a lid off a candle jar, parallel park a Mazda, smash a lot on a banded car, drop it off at a salad bar. I need to get my battery charged, it's only about half a bar, about when I'm after card. Remember me, the best Scottish MC of the 21st century, offering my help and expertise to another fledgling scene beset by an emergency. Why you think sick MCs feel the need to send for me? Competitors begging me for attention, no I don't got a verse free, but I will spare you the pleasantries. Recycling MCs, making enemies out of phrase of their beat, hit them with a hefty fee for carelessly wasting my energy. Is it air heat's 10 degrees? No shit, I'm getting old quick. Rather be a has-been than an O-bean. I'm about to go for that till they all get holding the door of the whip, so I got to show for that. Bruce Banner about to lose my shit, tear my coat off and pro, I be spoken fit. Cause we follow all sorts. They be hanking, they be some kind of warlords. Fucking shut it, bojaws. Cunts be rapping like somebody just putted them right in the homos. While I'm pumping all of the moors round the back of the lodge halls. Jog on, trapping out your trees while I be sharper than closet can chop logs. Puffing almost till the nicotine stains ingrained in the contours. Watching horror porn on Concord. Executive shit, cunts never seen this coming. Did they drop a mic for a fucking rip? Don't call it a comeback. Walking the club right up to the cunt with the uncut fucked up mustache. You the best MC? Eat this dust pants on you. Couldn't run a bloodbath. See that building, climb right up that, then jump off. What's that, drugs in your bag? Ever see me buzz gas through a skull fuck bucket hat? Inch like a match with my skull cap. Rolling up in your blood's gaff for your snuff stash like a hubcap. Flying off an upturned truck in a bus crash. Nothing but a first bus pass and a pub pass clans if you cut glass. What's that, you bust raps? You love trapping your buzz twat. It's tighter than your bus straps. Fuck that, you couldn't burn fat. Turn back son, this is a shot pap and a mustard. If one hunchback at your back shoots one glance and comebacks a first class top map. I'm rubber stamped, you're just rubbered man. I'm up your bub's gaff when you're at your mucker's fladdy and 50 cakes in a cupboard man. You're still drunk, I'm recovered man. Big tough guys out there way a long way to go till they understand what it means to be a fucking man. Grow up your fucking bam. I seen more shit than most of these freaks. My house was hard as your whole fucking street. Son, I don't need drugs to be up for weeks. Give me a pen and a pad and a fucking beat and watch me put the whole fucking scene up for lease. Say hi to the fucking chief.
Upload complete. Loki has returned.
If you don't really know what's going on, baby, show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
Call that radio TV. Thank you very much to Darren Loki McGarvey. This show is not possible without the support of the patrons, so thanks to everyone who supports the Patreon, and thanks to Anne. Shouts to Anne, who just signed up to the Patreon tonight. Thank you very much. We're at 181 patrons, which is amazing. We'll try to get to 200 so that we can do an all-day Christmas special live from CaptureWorks. So if you can, make a donation to PayPal or Patreon. We'd really appreciate that. This week, we've got some amazing stuff on. Tomorrow night, we're here most nights at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night, we're back with Justin, who will be an American film director who's making a film about competitive Lego that looks really funny and interesting. That's tomorrow night. Wednesday night, we have the Cabaret duo of My Bad Sister from Norfolk. They've went out everything from reality TV right through to festival favourites. They've toured with the Pet Shop Boys, so buzzing to get them on the show. That's Wednesday night. On Thursday, we've got Chris Gonzo Division Heron from the new Hellfire Club. You might recognise him from the Jackal Trades video, and you definitely would have read one of his amazing writings as a reviewer. Interesting guy. And Friday, we have Joy France, who's a retired teacher who decided to start a career in battle rapping. Find out her amazing story on Friday. Saturday we've got Saturday night we've got Amelia Baylor, live from CaptureWorks, and on Sunday night we've got the Creative Martyrs live from CaptureWorks. And online right now we have Gyro Babies Unplugged live from CaptureWorks. That's on our YouTube channel just now. So if you enjoyed this show tonight, we've done about 150 shows of these since lockdown began. You can find them all, or most of them. Some of them have been taken down for cheeky behaviour, but most of them are available at youtube.com/YouCallThatRadio. Give us a subscribe there. Get us on the Twitch. And I'll just read out a couple more comments, and then we're off. Dope show. Shelto Mel, thanks for tuning in. I hope you're feeling better. Get well soon, Mel, and hopefully we'll get you back on here soon. Petra says, great show, thanks, Troops. Petra also asked if Loki's ever battled Mog. The answer's no. Mog has not battled before. He's not a battle rapper. Just, and I can speak for Darren when Darren says he is a great MC and a great writer that Darren's a big fan of. We've got Lee says, yes, we need to support each other. Our shitty government won't. Correct. And Buddha says, I got into Glasgow music alternative in 1989. Love to you all. Sharon says, you'll have to get a t-shirt out mine. I'd buy it, says Sharon. Also, Sharon also asked about this t-shirt. This is Tory Cunts. It's a Twist X t-shirt. If you go to the Twist X page, it might have sold out, but I think there might be a couple left on the Twist X page. Look after number one and crew dude, says Andrew. And what was that? Yeah, okay, I think that's us. Oh, yeah, Celtic's cat advice. The reason the cat's meowing is he wants you to go outside with him to the garden. It doesn't really solve the problem though, does it? Govin says Loki's new stuff is epic. Gnarly is a gnarly thing, and a gnarly would hope to see it live soon. Wouldn't that be amazing? Hopefully we can all get back to live gigs soon. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in tonight. I will see you hopefully tomorrow or another night this week. We're here most nights at 7 o'clock. This has been You Call That Radio TV.
You call that radio. More like a TV show. On almost every night. It's gonna be streaming live. You call that radio. More like a TV show. On almost every night.
I forgot to say, if you are a patron and you're supporting the show, there is a brand new Jackal Trades single waiting for you. It's out on Friday, the Jackal Trades single, but you can get it now. It sounds a little like this.
Last man standing on the edge of the world.
I try to remember, but when everything is coming back to me, I feel as if my memory is paralyzed.
Now let's see. What is the last thing you can remember?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but Ooh. To listen to that song, you need to wait until Friday. Unless you're a patron at patreon.com/you call that radio. Then you can download it right now. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
You call that radio?
You call that radio?
What back to the people who hated on me?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute.
That's mad, isn't it?
Is this a Netflix thing?
It's actually a podcast.
What the fuck's a podcast?
You know, it's kind of like a radio show.
Oh, that radio!
Yeah.
And is there a way we can do something like that?
I couldn't help it.
By injection inside or
Yeah, I think so, because I think just paint in general, because I think like my poem is in my painting.
No, cut.